In quick tip 522, I showed you how to plot your tube colors around the color wheel, and not only as they go around the color wheel, but as they belong in the more desaturated portion of the color wheel. And we used only the warm colors in that quick tip. So for this quick tip, we're going to pick up where we left off with that one and show you about plotting the cool colors on the wheel. We already have here now the ones I did from the previous quick tip. Did you notice, or do you notice, that on my palette I have more of the warm colors, the tube colors, than I have of the cool tube colors? And that's because I found that in the cool tube colors I have so much ability to intermix between those to get the colors that I see on the color wheel. I don't really need a whole bunch of cool colors. Now, I want to start with violet, and the violet I have is the Dioxazine Purple by Gamblin. Other companies make that. It's very, very high tinting strength, strong color. So I don't use it very much because I can also mix red violet and ultramarine blue, which we'll come to in a moment, and get a really, really nice violet. But I want to show you this. Let me pull it over here. See how very, very strong. It looks almost black. And even when I spread it out to try to see that hue that's in it, it's so dark. It's so high in tinting strength. Let me say, not dark. So I'll pull. See, even when I add I add some solvent to that. You see, it's probably the highest tinting strength of any color on my palette, and I'll only use it when I feel I really need it, rather than that mixture of, actually the mixture of red violet and ultramarine blue. That's red violet and blue, which allows me to get a red violet, a purple violet that is not so strong in tinting strength. But I'm going to plot it there. And it really plots. I want to see if I can show you just a little bit of which direction it leans. So I'm going to pull this over like this on the palette there, on my little test strip, and let you see that. You see, it registers pretty close to the violet, pure violet hue. Very strong though, and very dark. So if I'm desaturating my yellow with that, I've got to be careful that, first of all, or you should do this anyway when you're desaturating, moving across the wheel, you always correct the value, always get the values the same. So yellow is the lightest value. In my tubes, yellow is the lightest value of the colors I have, value-wise, in its inherent value. And it turns out that because of the tinting strength, that this violet is really the darkest as they come out of the tube. So I have to add just a little bit of this into white to get it, raise the value of it so I can desaturate yellow, sort of like we have this desaturation right here. But we'll go ahead and put that on the chart on the wheel there. I'll put it in as, you see a little bit of its hue because of that really, really strong tinting strength. That's the kind of pigment that's used to make that color. And it's called Dioxazine Purple. In watercolor, by the way, you can plot the wheel. You can plot the wheel with your watercolor or your gouache, just like I'm plotting it here. What you will want to watch for in watercolor is that you don't add so much water to the color itself that it misleads you. you will need that pure color as it comes out of the tube. So you want to add just a drop of water just to activate the color as it comes out of the tube in order to place it on a wheel such as we're using here, just to identify your tube colors and so that you can have a working wheel. So that's the dioxazine purple. Now, the next color as we move around is blue violet. I don't have a blue violet. Uh, and I don't need a blue violet. I don't have a blue violet out of the tube. I don't need a blue violet. So what I'm going to do is to go on over to the blue. Now, blue ends up being one of those colors that really has a long range of the tertiary colors. Between the blue and the green, we have a really long range of tertiary colors. And then between the blue and the violet, we have a relatively long range of tertiary colors. But I'll go directly to the blue. That my blue that registers closest to the hue of blue is the ultramarine blue. Now, cobalt blue in most makers really sits right on that spectrum but I don't use cobalt blue, and the reason I don't use it is because it's opaque. I like the colors coming out of the tube as transparent as are available among the tube colors. Just my personal preference. So other folks have their preference too, and it works for them, and this is what works for me. But the ultramarine blue, I'll show you, it's a very weak tinting strength, but that makes it easy to work with. So I'll just pull the ultramarine blue right here. Now, I'll put it right here. Now, ultramarine blue does very slightly tilt towards violet, very slightly. So rather than put it right in the center here, I will just pull it over towards violet a little bit. But can you see it? You can see there where it goes on more transparent. You can see that really is a blue. Now I'll just put it over here just a little bit. Now, I put that in the wrong place. Ignore that one. I was hoping I'd get through this without pulling that sort of stunt. Right here. So, for the blue violet, rather than mix the dioxazine purple into this, which would be really tricky because this is so strong in tinting strength, I can mix red violet because red and blue make blue violet. In other words, blue, the only two hues in blue violet are blue and red. So I could, if I have I could use a carmine here, or I could use the alizarin permanent. But the red violet, because it is more saturated in hue of red violet, gives me a truer blue violet. So let's do that and see if I can correct that little glitch I made right there. So I'm going to add enough of the red violet into this. And again, now this is kind of hard to see because it's so dark and so transparent. It's hard to see. But we want a violet. Blue violet, we want to sit between blue and violet visually. Now let's see if I can just see if I can make that happen here. It's going to be hard for you to see because of having that underneath there. So if I can get it here a little bit more between blue and. All right, that is so dark, but let's put it on the test strip here and see if you can see there. Lean a little bit more towards ultramarine blue in this mix, so that you can see. If you visualize between this and this, a little bit more blue. Just put a little bit more blue in there. Now there we go. That's closer to it. Can you see there? Let's put it right on the edge so that you can see it better. Can you see there that this one kind of sits between this and that? But I want to just get that just a little bit truer for you there. Well, quit messing with it. Okay, let this be a warning. If you just ended up making a color wheel for yourself, you pay closer attention than I did as to where you're putting the color. Of course, I could pull that off, but then it would be a mess. So just for the sake of demonstration, we'll just move along. Now, right here, ultramarine blue, most people will have two blues, at least two blues in their tube colors. They'll have ultramarine blue and phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is a blue that leans towards green. Phthalo blue belongs right here. I don't have phthalo blue because I have another way of making the same hue, which I'll show you in a moment. But I do want to show you how phthalo blue registers. Now, there's that controversy that goes on the internet, which is cooler and which is warmer, phthalo blue or ultramarine blue. I don't know if that's even worth an argument because the way I was taught to read color, according to what hues are closest to each other, and I was taught to read blue. Of course, blue, yellow, and red are the primaries. They are equal distance from each other. Blue that leans a little bit more towards violet, which is ultramarine blue, is, as you move in this direction, it is a long way from yellow. And then also there's that argument of which is the warmest, yellow or red. That too is perception. But in the way I read warmth and cool of color, yellow is the warmest and red is cooler. Blue is the coolest hue of all. So phthalo blue belongs about right here. Now, the blue-green, I'll show you that in just a moment. So I'm going to put phthalo blue. And phthalo blue is a very saturated blue, highly saturated blue. So even though it's not I don't use it. It's not my color, so I can't say. I'll put it here just to show you. But phthalo blue belongs right there. Can you see? You see the difference between those two? Phthalo blue belongs right there because it really has yellow in it. It leans towards blue, it leans towards green, it leans towards yellow, it leans towards blue-green. The blue-green that I use is Rembrandt Viridian. Now there is a Viridian that is the original Viridian, which is a middle value yucky color. I don't care for it. I'll never have. Never found much use for it. This stuff, though, is a miracle worker. This is the Rembrandt Viridian, which is transparent and dark, and it registers pretty close to the actual blue-green. And I'll show you that now. Let me get my paper towel here. So I'll pick up some of that Viridian right here and put here. Now, isn't it interesting that there it is? There's my Rembrandt Viridian. Compare the Viridian, let me pull that over just a little bit more like that. The Rembrandt Viridian and the phthalo blue are both tertiary colors. The tertiary colors go from the blue-green in the tertiary colors. The blue-green itself can still be blue-green as it leans more and more towards blue as it goes over here. As long as it has any yellow in it, it's blue-green. And it still can lean towards blue-green as it moves towards green. As it has more and more yellow in it in this direction, it can still be blue-green. So there's the expression of that. So I wanted to go ahead and put phthalo blue on the palette, on the wheel, because I know most people will use it. Now there's another color which I don't use, but a lot of people do use. And you may find it familiar to you. That's cerulean. Now cerulean is just a lighter value. I'm not going to put it on the wheel, but cerulean is just a lighter value of the blue-green. So cerulean would go here too, and most ceruleans are pretty saturated. So it will really go on the outside edge if you're looking at it in terms of how you're going to use the color wheels for mixing your colors. For green, I don't have a green. I have a blue-green and I have a yellow-green, but I don't have a green. And so I'll go ahead with the yellow-green and then show you how I can mix the yellow-green with the blue-green and get green. You can always do this. You can mix for every secondary color. You can mix the two tertiaries on either side of the secondary and always come up with a secondary. Yellow green plus blue green mixed together will give you green. That works the same all the way around the color wheel. For the secondaries, every secondary can be mixed with its two tertiaries, the ones that live on either side of it. So I don't have that green, but the yellow green. Now yellow green has been kind of a heartbreak for those of us oil painters who love working with the color sap green, because Daniel Smith used to make the most beautiful sap green, in my opinion, that was available in oil paints. But Daniel Smith doesn't make oil paint anymore. And now the closest thing we can get in tubes for sap green, Rembrandt does make a sap green, and Gammon does make a sap green. To my neither one of them is really satisfactory to me. The Rembrandt is a little too desaturated. And the Gammon, for my eye, is just almost a little, it's not quite transparent enough, but I'm being very, very picky because I'm used to the Daniel Smith. But I do have enough. This is my last tube of Daniel Smith sap green. So I do have enough of that to show you how it registers in the tertiary, on the tertiary yellow-green. So we'll pull the Daniel Smith sap green, and then I'll show you how I can mix it. So you see it's very dark and transparent. It's just a beautiful, beautiful yellow-green. It belongs right here, Diane, not there. So we'll put it right here, and I'll let you see. You can see I've got that in the wrong place. It really belongs down here. It's a slightly desaturated yellow-green. I am going to take that other one away. Now there's a yellow-green called phthalo yellow-green. It has some other name too. That it's a very light in value, highly saturated yellow-green that you can use if that's your preference. You can use it. I don't need that because I have the ability to get a highly saturated yellow-green by mixing yellow with the blue-green. So this is the quick tip of corrections. So I'll just pull enough of that away so that you can see that that sap green does not belong there. It's a more desaturated yellow green. Now, this because of the way color behaves, what color does to color, I can actually make a sap green with my Viridian, and I usually do. In fact, since I've realized that Daniel Smith doesn't make that sap green anymore, I do that. Now what I will do is, I'm just going to come this from the tube so I can be sure I have enough to show you. That's the Rembrandt Viridian. Now I'm going to show you the logic behind this. For the yellow greens, it's not a fully saturated yellow green, but it's closer to the sap green. Because of the way because of the way color works, red-orange has enough orange in it to mix with the yellow. It has enough yellow in it to mix with the yellow of yellow here of the blue-green, and actually give us that yellow-green. Although it's desaturated, but so I'm going to use here, show you how to do that. This is the Rembrandt Transparent Oxide Red. And the Rembrandt Transparent Oxide Red mixed with, in small proportion, with the Viridian will give us that sap green. So I'll just show you how that works right here. The red because of the orange and the blue that's in both of those colors, the blue part of it is going to disappear, and the yellow part of it will. Let's get just a little bit more of that. The yellow part of it will take over. That's because of the way saturation works. So you can see, I don't know if you can see, it's beginning to change. Yeah, it's getting very, very close. Very, very close to that yellow green. All right. I believe I have it there already. That is a miracle mix, and I really don't need a yellow green anymore out of the tube because I can mix it right here. I'll show you that so that you can see. Let's just spread that over the, see, can you see that? See, I don't have quite as much yellow in there. Let me put just a little bit more of the transparent oxide red in that and get that just a little bit more desaturated and take a little bit more of that blue out of it. So all of this answers the person's question also to a point of how do you mix the colors that you don't have. So you can mix transparent oxide red. I'll show you the other one in just a moment. Let's just go ahead and put that down. All right, so this is my mixture of the yellow green right here. You see, it's really just lean it up a little bit so you can see a little bit of it like that. Of course, to raise its value, I can add more yellow to it. The other thing I want to show you there is that you can make a highly desaturated yellow-green from, once again, viridian and yellow. In other words, what we're doing here is we're mixing these two together, yellow here and blue-green. Because when we add the yellow into the blue-green, it mixes with the blue and it becomes green. So you can carry it both ways there. So let's put just a little bit more of the viridian on the palette there. And let's pull the yellow down. This first of all, let's mix just the green first of all. So we'll just add just going gradually in here. So we'll do both. Okay, that's almost there. Still leaning a little bit more. That's looking a little bit like that viridian used to look. I don't know if they still make that color. The original viridian. Not really though. Okay, there you go. See what it's doing there? It's beginning to get that yellow green. It's beginning now. It's very green. So let's do the green first. There. Now I'm going to show you the other way we can get the green, especially if you want a darker green. So my experience is that this particular palette I use, and these colors, the way I've narrowed these colors down, gives me the widest potential of mixtures of any palette I've used. And so that's green. That's it, pretty close. It's a little bit cool. Add a little bit more. There you go, because under a different light in different environment, sometimes the colors will tend to lean and you have to adjust it. So if it ends up too cool, it's going more towards blue-green, we add more yellow and we get it closer to yellow-green, or closer to green. So here we go. Let's see if we can get that. Yeah, there we go. That's sitting pretty close to green right there. Now we'll show you the other way, which is just fantastic. We can mix, I think maybe I'll just go here for that. We can mix the yellow green with the blue green. That's, in essence, it's almost the same thing that I did. So if I go back in here, and I mix that into the yellow green, I'll get a very dark green. Get my head over here so I can see it. Very dark green. So if I just want green, and I don't want it to be blue-green, I just really want a dark green, then I can mix yellow-green and blue-green and get that very, very dark green. That's tending a little bit towards blue. We'll just put that down there and see. So you see, when you're working with tube colors, hard to read that as green, but you can see it. Yes. When you're working with tube colors, you've got that value variation in your tube colors. The hue is going to register, every tube color is going to register somewhere on this color, on a color wheel as you're plotting your colors. But if you can, take a rainy day or any day and plot all of your tube colors, take them one at a time. You might arrange them according to guesswork where you think they might, the sequence they might fall into as related to the color wheel. And then just take them one at a time and place the color wherever the hue belongs and wherever the saturation of that hue belongs. And then you will have a wheel of all your tube colors, such as I have here. Now, I could, if I didn't already have it memorized, I could look at this and know what I have available to me to mix any color I want. So, for example, suppose I wanted I want a yellow orange that's desaturated. Well, I know I can reach over for the blue violet, and I will need to, never forget this part, I will need to, first of all, add enough white into blue violet so that it's the same value as yellow orange. And then I can add a little bit of that at a time to yellow orange, and I'll get that desaturated yellow orange, which we have come to know to be yellow ochre. So I think you'll find that's a very valuable exercise and helps you really to get to know your tube colors and know what they will do when you mix them together. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.